if the world needs a cause outside, then who created God? Please allow me to give you responses that I heard two of my friends give in totally different contexts and then build my answer from that. First was Michael Ramsden, my colleague in the UK. Somebody in the audience asked him this question: who created God? Michael looked in the direction of the questioner and said, I'm sorry, what's your question? And the questioner repeated that for him. And then he again said, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand your question. Now the questioner is getting a little uncomfortable, is raising his volume and asked the same question. And Michael for the third time said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. As you could imagine, the questioner was now getting a bit irate. But then Michael went on to explain this. He said, when you ask the question, who made God? At least according to the Bible, God is defined as someone who is infinite, eternal, which means God always exists. Only that which is finite needs a cause outside. God of the Bible, by virtue of his eternal nature, always existed, which means he does not need a cause outside. Now, another friend of mine, Philip Cherian, he was once asked this question and he began this way. When he was asked who made God, he responded, well, Biju made God. The people were looking strange with that response. And Philip went on to say, I think I know your second question. Well, in that case, who made Biju? And he says, I have an answer to that question also. It was Liju who made Biju. Well, with that kind of reasoning, Philip went on to show how when you use the word God, somehow intrinsic to the word God is the meaning that God must be the ultimate, must be the infinite one. The moment you say Biju made God, your focus turns away from God to Biju. Why? Because Biju must be the real God because he made God. But then the question comes back to you, who made Biju? And then you say Liju made Biju. Now Liju becomes the main person, not Biju anymore. He did this process of reasoning to make it clear that within the word God is the intrinsic meaning that God by definition must be infinite. If he were not infinite, there would be a cause outside. Well, there may be finite gods in the world that we live in because we have gods in all shapes and sizes. But the God of the Bible comes across as someone who is infinite. In fact, the very first verse in the Bible begins, in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth, which suggests that God was there before the beginning. Did you know that modern physics actually uses that same language? It talks about the beginning of the universe, the singularity of time. Not just the beginning of matter and space, but the beginning of time also, which means there was a time when there was no time. But the Bible says it was God with a capital G who made matter, space, and time. So we live in a space-time universe. We need a cause outside. God, by definition of the term in the Bible, is someone who is infinite and eternal. He just exists. So it is not a very smart question to ask, who made God? Because that will push you to revise your understanding about the characteristic of this God you are talking about.